Hi Sandy, and anyone else who is suffering right now. If you are a Christian and God is putting you through a trial and things are going really bad in your life and it just seems to be getting worse and worse and worse, and you're thinking, God doesn't care about me anymore. Why is God doing this to me? It's hard to believe in God when stuff like this happens to me. Well, I want to read to you about a very righteous man, and I want you to learn from his experiences, and hopefully this will help you a great deal. I couldn't read the whole, I could, but I decided not to read the whole book of Job to you guys because it was 42 chapters long, so that would have took several videos. So I found something I want to read to you guys today. It explains what Job went through. And we are going to learn from the suffering of Job today. I really want you to listen to this. You need to hear every word I'm saying. The suffering of a man named Job explains much about why character is more important in God's eyes than the discomfort and pain we experience in this life. Job was an exceptionally righteous man. He carefully avoided acts of transgression against God's laws. He behaved blamelessly, but like all of us, he had weaknesses. He was not perfect. God decided to test Job's character to see how his commitment to him would bear up under adversity. He wanted to see if Job would stay faithful to him, or when things got tough, would he turn his back on God? The account of Job is in the scripture to help righteous people when they go through discouraging and traumatic experiences, to learn to trust God patiently while waiting the resolution of their problem. God boasted of Job's righteous behavior to Satan. Satan responded, "Stretch out your hand and touch all that he has, and Job will surely curse you to your face." Later events proved Satan wrong. Job's character was not that weak. God granted Satan permission to strip Job of his possessions and his family and to afflict him with excruciating boils. Job at first accepted his plight, saying, "The Lord gave and the Lord has taken away. Blessed be the name of the Lord." Later, Job's 3 friends heard of all his adversity and had come upon him, and each one came to mourn him and to comfort him. After a week of laminating with them, he began to discuss his calamities and suffering. Job listed his complaints, showing the iniquities of life. Later, God agreed with him. Not everything in his life is fair and equitable. Job's 3 friends, however, were certain that God was punishing Job for some secret sin, something Job could hide from everyone but God. Job vehemently denied that such was the case, and he was right. God later verified this also. However, during his ordeal of loss and suffering, Job gradually came to resent God. This often happens to people in the midst of inexplicable calamity. When things get really bad in your life, something really bad happens. Many chapters relate to faulty reasoning and accusations on Job's 3 friends. And Job's denies. Finally, one of Job's younger friends, Elihu, spoke up. He recognized that Job's perspective was flawed and distorted. Job had convinced himself that his affliction served no purpose. He decided that God was simply not treating him fairly. Elihu realized that Job was so obsessed with his innocence that he was finding fault with God rather than looking for lessons to learn from his trials. To Job's complaints, Elihu replied, "Do you think this is right? Do you say my righteousness is more than God's?" Instead of seeing his adversity as opportunity for patience and for letting God mold him, Job had grown in his resentment toward his Creator. He closed his mind to the possibility that he could learn something valuable from his suffering. Job's principal objection was that God was unresponsive to him, that he was not properly acknowledging his righteousness. God challenged Job, suggesting that he tried to tame a sea creature, a great beast that was made without fear. Can you draw out Leviathan with a hook, or snare his tongue with a line which is lower? Can you put a reed through his nose, or pierce his jaw with a hook? Will he make many supplications to you? Will he speak softly to you? In the end, Job saw that the basis of his problem was his lack of understanding and excessive confidence in his own righteousness. Then his view on God's fairness changed. He saw that his critical attitude toward God was wrong. I have uttered what I did not understand, things too wonderful for me, which I did not know. I have heard of you by the hearing of my ear, but now my eye sees you. Therefore I adore myself and repent in dust and ashes. Job's experience is recorded in great detail so that we can learn the folly of holding too high an opinion of ourselves. Pride goes before destruction, and a haughty spirit before a fall. Better to be a humble spirit with the lowly than to divide the spoil with the proud. Job's experience can explain why righteous people may go through discouraging and traumatic times and be tempted to resent God for not obviously and quickly intervening on their behalf. Like Job, we can fail to understand that God sees far more than we see. No matter how severe a trial is, we should not assume God is not listening or doesn't care. He sees lessons we need to learn that are beyond our present understanding. We need always to remember some excellent advice from King David. Wait on the Lord, be of good courage, and he shall strengthen your heart. Wait, I say, on the Lord. You can find that in Psalm 27, verse 14. We should learn from Job's experience to maintain impatient respect. We should learn from Job's experience to maintain patient respect and trust in God, even in the midst of our sufferings. And I want to read to you guys here, if I can find the right Bible verse here. I want you to listen to this. Listen to what all happened to Job. And this is not all. This is just some of what happened to Job. And the Lord said to Satan, Behold, all that he has in your power, only on himself put not forth your hand. Which means he would not let Satan kill Job. He could do whatever else he wanted with him, but he could not kill him. So Satan went forth from the presence of the Lord, and there was a day when his sons and his daughters were eating and drinking wine in their oldest brother's house. And there came a messenger to Job and said, The oxen were plowing, and the asses feeding beside them, and the Sabaeans fell on them and took them away. Yes, they have slain the servants with the edge of the sword, and I only am escaped alone to tell you. While he was yet speaking, there came also another and said, The fire of God has fallen from heaven, and has burned up the sheep and the servants, and consumed them. I escaped alone to tell you. While he was yet speaking, there came also another and said, The Chaldeans made out 3 bands, and fell on the camels, and have carried them away, yes, and slain the servants with the edge of the sword, and I only am escaped alone to tell you. While he was yet speaking, There came also another and said, Your sons and your daughters were eating and drinking wine in their oldest brother's house. And behold, there came a great wind from the wilderness, and smote the four corners of the house, and it fell on the young men, and they are all dead. And I only am escaped alone to tell you. And that is just a little bit of what Job went through, like God was testing him, because Satan knew God was good. Satan knew Job was good. And he wanted to prove to God that if he made Job have a hard life and not do everything he wanted and cause him pain and cause him suffering, that he would turn from God. The devil really thought he was going to win. But Job showed that he had more faith in the Lord than that whatever bad happened to him, he got angry with God at times, but he did not leave God. He did not leave God. And in the end, when the devil could do no more, because he had already took everything from Job and even made him so bad, took all his friends away. Nobody wanted nothing to do with him. Took all of his animals, his food supplies, took his children away from him, killed his children, put boils on Job, made him so sore and stuff he could barely walk. He was in tremendous pain. This on and on stuff happened to Job. But then the devil could do no more, because there was nothing else he could do to Job, because God would not let him kill Job. And Job stayed faithful to the Lord. And then the devil, of course, finally gave up, because he knew Job was not going to give in to him. And when Job stayed faithful to God and the devil left him, and God seeing that Job stayed faithful to him, Job ended up with more stuff, more servants, more animals, more friends, more land, more of everything than he had ever had before. He had a much better life after he stayed faithful to the Lord. So there is a lot that you can learn from the book of Job. And if you're having a hard time in your life right now, where you feel like turning on God, please look deep into your heart before you turn from the Lord, because He is always there for you and He will never leave you. And if you are considering anything bad that you think God is punishing you for a reason, God is testing you, because Satan thinks that you are too good, that you are too righteous, and he wants to try to bring you down to his level. And God will let him test you, but it's up to you and you alone whether you pass that test. You fail the test, the devil wins. You pass the test, you win. You win eternal life. I would suggest reading the book of Job to everyone, because we all have problems in our life, and some are always worse than others. The book of Job has 42 chapters, but that's a book I would suggest for you to read out of the Bible when something like this is going wrong in your life, and you think God is punishing you, and you are alone, that He doesn't love you for some reason, and He's doing it to you and only you. But you are nothing but good to everyone, and you're a good person. You do good for everything. Well, so did Job. So did Job. And that's why Satan wanted to bring him down. He wanted to prove to God that he could bring him down. And Job would laugh in his face and say he didn't want nothing to do with God. He would say that to God's face. But Job stayed faithful. And he suffered for many months. His suffering just didn't happen just one day. He suffered for months, because the devil kept testing him more and more and more, doing more horrible things to him. But I hope this helped you guys a little bit. I hope this helped you, Sandy, to understand more of why God did what He did with Eric and Fuzz, and that it's not because anything is wrong with you and that he is mad at you or Eric or Fuzz. He loves you guys very much. There's these things that God knows the future and we don't, and he knows what's best for each and every one of us. He is our Father and he wants what's best for us. And he will test you, let the devil test you to see if you stay faithful to him. And if you don't have good things in this life, you have nothing but pain. Stay faithful to God, well, you'll have eternity in paradise with more than you've ever had on this earth. And that is well worth it to me. I hope it's well worth it to you guys as well. But I hope you guys learned something today from the book of Job here that I was reading. And I hope you guys have a great rest of your evening. Bye guys. God bless.